Samuel, I'm coming to pick you up today. Wait for me outside. Destiny typed the message, hit the send button, and slipped her phone into her apron pocket before grabbing the last tray of glasses off the bar counter. It was barely 4 in the afternoon, but the Miami heat was already pressing down on everything like a hot pressing iron. She untied her apron when she was done with her shift, waved at her manager, and walked out into the thick, sticky air with one thing on her mind: her brother's face when he saw her pulling up to his school. She hadn't done it in months. Work always got in the way. Today felt different. Her shift had ended early. Tips were decent. For the first time in a long time, Destiny felt like she was winning, even if just by an inch. She never saw the black SUV parked across the street. She never noticed the man in the driver's seat who had been watching her since she stepped out of the bar. She was thinking about Samuel. She crossed the street, keys already in her hand, heading toward her old Honda Civic, and that was when it happened. 2 men stepped out of the SUV. Destiny Cole, the taller one, called out. She stopped briefly. Her hand tightened around her keys. Nobody used her full name like that on a random Miami street unless something was wrong. You need to come with us. The other man beside the taller one said calmly. Hello, welcome to Moon Soul Stories. Here I got lots of interesting, highly moral, life-inspiring value stories to share with you. And you don't want to miss it. Are you seeing this channel for the first time? Please say hello Moon in the comment. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because there are more stories coming to your screen, and you don't want to miss it. Back to Destiny on the street. Destiny didn't move. Her eyes measured the distance between her and her car. Too far. Her phone was in her pocket, but before her hand could get anywhere near it, the second man stepped to her left, cutting the angle, boxing her in without touching her. We don't want problems, the tall one said. Neither do you, except you want your brother to get hurt. The tall man sneered at her, his eyes cold. Where is my brother? Destiny asked quickly, fear curling up quickly in her. The man tilted his head at her. A smile brushed across his lips. That smile told her everything she needed to know. They took her phone. They walked her to the SUV. And nobody on that Miami street looked twice, because that is the terrifying thing about cruelty done calmly. It looks ordinary from the outside. The drive lasted 20 minutes. She counted every turn, memorized every sound. The windows were tinted dark, but she could feel the city giving way to something quieter, wider, more expensive. Gates, gravel, manicured hedges pressing against the glass. When the car stopped and the door opened, the first thing Destiny saw was a big luxurious mansion. It wasn't the size that hit her. It was the silence that lingered around the mansion. No neighbors, just dry streets. They walked her inside. And there, in the middle of a vast open room with white walls and cold floors, sat Samuel. His wrists were tied. His school bag was still on his back, like they had snatched him mid-step. His eyes found hers the second she walked through the door, and the look on his face, the way his whole body sagged with relief and broke with guilt at the same time, nearly dropped her to her knees. Destiny, he called out fast. Don't talk. One of the guards stepped forward, threatening him with a dread look on his face. Samuel. She kept her voice low. She needed him to see that she was not falling apart, even though everything inside her was. Are you hurt? She asked calmly from the door she stood in. He shook his head quickly. His lip was cut. She noticed it immediately and filed it away like a wound she would deal with later, because later had to exist first. A door opened on the far end of the room. The man who walked in was not what she expected. Black Jay was lean, composed, dressed in dark clothes that looked like they had never seen a wrinkle. He moved with the unhurried ease of a man who had never once been told no. He was Korean mid-40s. He stopped a few feet from her, looked at her the way someone looks at a tool they are about to put to use. Destiny Cole, he mentioned, 26 years old, a maid and a bartender, quietly living in Liberty City with your young little brother. He paused, and hiding something that does not belong in a quiet life. He smirked at her. Her stomach dropped. I don't know what you're talking about. Destiny revoked quickly. Well, we are about to find out if you don't really know or perhaps pretending not to know, Black Jay muttered, nipping on his fingers. Black Jay tilted his head to stare at her face. You drew a patient's face in a hospital on a sketchbook of yours 3 years ago. A woman who was in the mid of her surgery, coded on the table. And then suddenly she lived. Exactly the way you had drawn it. Down to the position of her hand. He took one step forward. You disappeared the next morning. Changed neighborhoods. Stopped drawing. He took another step. Did you really think disappearing was the same as being invisible and not being found? The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. Destiny said nothing to him. I'm not here to hurt you, Black Jay said. I'm here to offer you a transaction. You give me what I need. I give Samuel back to you, alive and unharmed. And you both walk out of here and never see me again. He reached to the side. One of his men handed him a sketchbook, brand new and thick. He placed it on the table between them. I need you to plan the biggest bank heist in Miami for me, he said. Every detail, every movement, every exit, every outcome, drawn with your hand. He straightened. You have until nightfall to finish the drawing. Destiny stared at the sketchbook. Then she looked at Samuel. His cut lip, his terrified eyes, his school bag still strapped to his back like he had just been walking home and the world had swallowed him whole. She reached out her hand and she slowly picked up the sketchbook. The first stroke of the pencil felt like pressing a bruise on your skin. Destiny sat at the long table, sketchbook open before her, and the moment the pencil touched paper she felt it, that familiar pull behind her eyes. Low, deep, like something inside her was being slowly turned on against its will. She had not drawn anything in 2 years. 2 years of clean hands, empty notebooks, and a quiet life she had stitched together out of discipline and fear. And now here she was in a criminal's mansion, with her brother's life sitting on the other side of every line she drew. Black Jay stood near the wall, arms folded, watching her closely. His men stood at the doors. Nobody spoke. Destiny pressed the pencil down and began. The vision came fast. Faster than she remembered. It hit her behind the eyes first, a sharp pressure, then spread outward like heat from a coal. She saw the bank. Federal Trust on Brickell Avenue. Wide lobby. Marble floors. 6-teller windows. 2 armed guards stationed at the entrance. A third near the vault corridor. She saw the timing. A Tuesday morning 11:15, when the cash reserves were freshest after the weekend transfer. She saw the exits. The blind spots in the cameras. The 17-second window between guard rotations. She drew all of it. Her hand moved almost on its own. And with every stroke something leaked out of her. Like the drawing was pulling from a well inside her that had a bottom, and she could feel herself getting closer to it. By the time she had sketched the lobby layout, her left hand was trembling. Black Jay walked closer, looked down at the page. His expression did not change, but something in his posture shifted, a slight lean forward. Hunger, carefully disguised as patience. Keep going, he commanded. She kept going. The second vision was worse. This one came with sound. Radio static, a woman screaming somewhere far off, the flat mechanical wail of police sirens closing in from 3 directions. She saw one of Black Jay's men on the ground. She saw broken glass. She saw fire spreading from an overturned vehicle 2 blocks from the bank. She saw blood. She didn't know whose yet. Her nose started bleeding. A thin line, quiet and sudden. She pressed her wrist against it without stopping the pencil. Samuel made a sound from across the room. Destiny. I'm fine. She didn't look up. She couldn't afford to look up. I'm fine, Samuel. She was not fine. But she needed him to believe she was, because the moment he stopped believing that, he would do something brave and stupid and get himself killed. She drew the vault corridor. She drew the guard positions. She drew the escape route, 2 vehicles, staggered exit points, a window of 4 minutes before full police response. And then, quietly, almost without deciding to, she began to change things. It started small, almost invisible. A door she drew slightly wrong, one that would not open from the inside the way Black Jay's men would expect. A timing she shifted by 90 seconds, long enough to close the window they were counting on. A camera angle she drew as blind that was not actually blind. Small things. The kind of things that only a person who had already seen the real future would know to hide inside a fake one. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. She kept her face still. Kept her breathing even. Kept her eyes on the page. Black Jay was still watching but never realized what she was doing. She turned to a fresh page. Pressed the pencil down again. This vision came differently. She saw the bank, same building, same Tuesday morning. But this time the chaos ran a different direction. She saw Black Jay's men walking into positions that had been quietly rearranged. She saw the door that wouldn't open. She saw the 90-second delay that would bring 2 additional squad cars around the corner. She saw the camera, the one she had drawn as blind, catching everything. She saw Black Jay in handcuffs. She saw Samuel running. She saw herself, standing outside in the open Miami air, sketchbook closed, eyes forward. Her hand was shaking badly now. The nosebleed had stopped, but her vision kept blurring at the edges. The cost of using this gift was never small. Every time she drew from this deep, it took days to feel normal again. Sometimes longer. But she kept drawing. Because somewhere in that final image was the only thing that mattered, Samuel running toward her free. She built the trap carefully, buried inside a masterpiece. Every line of the robbery plan was perfect on the surface, detailed enough to convince Black Jay, real enough to pass whatever test his instincts would run it through. But threaded through the whole design, invisible unless you knew exactly what you were looking for, were the fractures. The pressure points. The places where everything would crack at exactly the right moment. By the time she closed the sketchbook, her hands were cold. Black Jay crossed the room in 4 steps. He picked up the sketchbook, opened it, took his time and turned each page slowly, studying every line with focus. The room was completely silent. Destiny sat still, kept her face empty, did not look at Samuel. Finally, Black Jay closed the sketchbook. "This is exactly what I needed," he said happily. "Tonight," he said to his men. They moved immediately. The room shifted into action, low voices, equipment being prepared. Destiny sat in the chair and did not move. And in the silence behind all of that noise, she held one thought like a stone in her fist. The drawing is already done. The future is already written. And it is not the one he thinks it is. The drawing was going to lead him to doom. The mansion emptied fast. Black Jay left with 12 men, 2 vehicles, and the sketchbook tucked under his arm like a winning hand. He didn't look back at Destiny. 2 guards stayed behind. 1 at the door. 1 near Samuel. Destiny sat still and counted 7 minutes after the vehicles pulled out of the gate. Then she looked up at the guard near Samuel and said quietly, "He needs water. He's been sitting there for hours." The guard hesitated. "He's a teenager," she said. "He's not going anywhere." The guard walked to the far side of the room toward a small kitchen alcove. 3 seconds. That was all she needed. "Samuel." Her voice was barely above a breath. "When I say run, you run. You don't look back. You don't wait for me. You run." His eyes went wide. "Destiny, I'm not leaving you." "Samuel." The way she said his name stopped him cold. "I didn't draw all of that just for you to argue with me right now. Do you understand me?" He swallowed hard and nodded. The guard came back with a bottle of water, set it on the table, stepped back toward his position, and then Destiny's phone, the one they had taken from her and left on the side table near the entrance, lit up with a notification. The guard near the door turned to look at it. A reflex. Half a second. That was the crack. Samuel moved first, shockingly fast for someone who had been tied to a chair for hours. He twisted, got one hand free from the loosened rope, and was on his feet before the guard near him could process what was happening. Destiny was already moving toward the door. The guard near the entrance spun around, but she was low and fast and she drove her shoulder into his ribs before he could straighten his arm. They ran. Out of the mansion. Into the warm Miami night. Through the manicured hedges that tore at their arms. Down a long gravel path toward a side gate that sat unlocked, exactly where she had known it would be. Exactly where she had drawn it. For miles away on Brickell Avenue, everything was coming apart for Black Jay. His men moved on the bank at 11:15, exactly as the drawing instructed. They were confident. They had a perfect plan drawn by a woman with a supernatural gift, and that kind of certainty makes men careless in the most dangerous way. The first door didn't open. Not a malfunction. Not bad luck. It simply did not open the way it was supposed to, because Destiny had drawn it wrong on purpose, and the future had obeyed her sketch. 30 seconds of confusion at that door cost them the timing they needed. By the time the second team reached the vault corridor, the 90-second gap Destiny had secretly shifted was already closing. The additional squad cars she had quietly written into the plan were already rounding the corner. Sirens cut through the night air. One of Black Jay's men panicked and broke formation. Then another. The alliance that had looked solid in a mansion conference room looked very different under red and blue lights with police closing in from 3 directions. Black Jay stood in the lobby of Federal Trust and looked down at the open sketchbook in his hands. He turned one page, then another, and somewhere between the 3rd and 4th page, he saw it, the tiny, almost invisible adjustments. The door drawn slightly off. the camera angle that wasn't what she said it was, the timing that didn't match what he had memorized. She played me. He said it quietly, almost throwing the stretchbook to the floor, but his hands hung in the air with it. And then the main entrance doors of the bank burst open and Miami PD flooded in. He ran, made it 2 blocks. And then he stopped because standing at the far end of that street, lit by the orange glow of a streetlight, was a police unit that had been tipped off and was already waiting for him. Exactly where Destiny's final sketch had placed them. Black Jay dropped to his knees on the Miami pavement, his hands raised above his head. The police walked up to him, pointing his gun at him, and the cuffs clicked shut around Black Jay's wrist. Sometimes people hide their greatest talent because of past pain, fear, or mistakes, but one failure does not mean your gift has expired. What God placed inside you was never meant to stay buried. Your talent may be the very key that saves your future and changes someone else's life. Never let fear silence what you were created to become. Sometimes the gift you are afraid to use is the same gift that will open the door to your breakthrough. Your past should be a lesson, not a prison. If you enjoyed this story, please give this story a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell, because we have many more powerful, emotional, and life-inspiring stories coming your way. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.